Hello bitches, welcome back to the final draw with me. We finally made it to the last spread of this sketchbook. I can't believe I actually finished a somewhat polished sketchbook. It's been such a long time since I've ever finished a sketchbook with this many polished pieces or pieces that are not scribbly ass thumbnails for my comics. So this is somewhat of a personal achievement for me because it's just something I would not have done if I did not decide to do this on this channel. So thank you all for sticking through this with me and watching whatever I drew in this sketchbook. So for today's spread, the final spread, I am taking another one of y'all's suggestions from Sailor Fan 86. Suggestion: draw a memory of your childhood. Can be anything. So this was one of the other top suggestions that I got. And the thing is, I actually did a spread already about my childhood, kind of growing up with my grandparents and cousins. And I also did one of my Asian American background. But something I thought that wasn't necessarily from my childhood, but I feel is still relevant to my youth, is the days when I was a high school student just trying to apply to get into art schools and just not knowing where the fuck my future is gonna go. So I decided to just kind of tweak Sailor Fan's suggestion a bit to maybe a little bit older than childhood, because I feel this is a stage in life where many of my viewers are in, from what I've noticed from reading the comments so far. I read a lot about you all trying to get into art school, debating if you want to go to art school, or I don't know, just not even knowing anything about art school and where to start. So I thought I would just spend this time talking about things that I wish I knew before getting myself into art school. And for me specifically, it was going to CalArts for their character animation program. So just some background information as to who I was back in the good old days of high school trying to get into art school. I was just your average girl living in New York. I had absolutely zero connections to the animation industry or anything animation related. I did not know a single soul, so it was kind of a struggle in that realm. But I knew I wanted to do something in entertainment within the animation industry, and New York does have its entertainment circle or industry, but it's more so for commercial stuff. They had a lot of stuff for the news, magazines, fashion, graphic design, stuff like that. But I really wanted to do stuff for storytelling and film that was more located within Los Angeles. So I was just I have to do anything possible to get close to the animation industry with the limited resources I had in New York. Not that resources were limited, because I feel New York is such a big city. Of course there are a lot of resources, however there were just not many that were specifically catered towards the animation film industry within New York. So I felt I just needed to do whatever it took to just get really good at the foundational skills and art that I knew they wanted in animation, which is mainly life drawing, gestures, figure drawing. So I tried to find as many life drawing classes around me as much as possible. So what I did was, over the course of 2 summers, which I had to go to 5 days a week, I went to Parsons to just take an animation class. I think I took an animation class both times, but what I did was just learn how to use Flash and just animate better. I had a reason for someone to just look over my animations and at least critique my work for that time. And then during the weekdays when I was back at regular school, there was just this adult learning center that offered life drawing classes once a week. So whenever I was done with school, I went straight to this adult learning center to do gesture drawings. Then over another summer, which was 5 days a week again, I went to FIT, where they had a life drawing class and a foundational art skills class, which was another great opportunity for me to just build up pieces to submit for my portfolio, because a lot of them wanted life drawings for animation. And then finally, during the last stretch of my whole portfolio development, I went to SVA, which is School of Visual Arts in New York City, which offered a life drawing class over the weekends throughout the winter. And that was just what I did to build as many life drawings as much as possible, because I knew I wasn't that great at it, but in order for me to get good at it, I had to take as many opportunities as I could to get all the bad drawings out of my system so that I could have as many options to choose from to select for my portfolio. What I've learned from my personal experience developing these portfolios to submit to art schools is that they want to see that you already understand how to draw and the foundations of it. They don't expect you to be like, oh my gosh, a master behind it, but they do want to see that you understand the basics and the intent of the major that you're trying to get into, because I noticed that there were so many great artists that were applying to CalArts, but they didn't get in. And I think my personal reasons why I think no one said this officially is that I feel like even though you're a great artist, if you want to get into animation, you have to show that you think about storytelling with your artwork. And some people are just amazing at art, but they didn't think about the intent of storytelling behind their drawings. So that was something that I knew I had to keep in mind if I wanted to go to CalArts or like any animation program that was willing to accept me, was to just show them that, hey, I can draw, but I can also tell a story with it. So eventually I got accepted into CalArts, which is one of the biggest reliefs of my life as a high school student who was just anxiously awaiting college applications to respond back to me. So when I found out that I got accepted, I literally shat myself, not actually, but I fell on the floor and I started crying because I was so convinced that I was going to be rejected. Even my mom cried for me because I was crying. Like, I can't even explain how shitty my self-esteem was as a high school student. I just think I'm gonna get rejected over everything. I thought I was a shitty artist no matter how hard I tried, but just getting that news was just one of the biggest like moments of my high school life. And then I just went to art school and now I'm done with it. It's been 3 years since I graduated, and I do have some things that I wish that I did better in looking back in time if I were to start art school all over again. So as many of you might have heard from my previous video, prepare for art to just no longer be just a hobby. Art school is kind of like the transition between it becoming a career from a hobby. So you're gonna start being told to do certain things with your art that you weren't told to do before, because before you could just do whatever you want whenever you want. Now you have teachers kind of guiding you, telling you things to do in order to help you improve, and eventually you're going to be a free little bird who is kind of on their own, and your life is gonna kind of depend on your art if that is what you choose to do as a career. Well, hindsight is 20/20, and there's really not much you can do with this information, because it's like someone can tell you your art is no longer going to be your hobby once you start college, and you're going to be like, well, what do you want me to do about it then? Like, what can I do to prevent this from happening? And the thing is like, maybe some of you might just not experience that and just always be loving and excited for art, and that is great for you. But for the people that probably might have a fallout with art, it's going to happen. But just so you know, I guess the best thing you can do to potentially prepare for this is to know that when art does start to bother you or it starts to stress you out, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to just step away from it. If you just need to do it for an assignment, do it for the assignment, but don't force yourself to keep producing personal art for yourself during your times that you're not in school. Secondly, if I were to go back to art school, I wish I put a little bit more effort into being more outgoing. I am an introvert, and I was even more so like an extreme introvert when I first started going to art school. I even conducted a survey on my Instagram recently, and I think 80 to 90% of you all are introverts and 10 to 20% of you all are extroverts. And I honestly think that a lot of artists are introverts because we're very introspective and we like to draw out our feelings or the things that are going on inside of us. So I feel like it's natural for a lot of artists to be introverts, but for me specifically, it really held me back from meeting people and putting the initiative to make friends. Literally, my first year of CalArts, I had no fucking friends. I'm not even lying. I just had acquaintances and classmates that I was just cordial with, but I wasn't like, oh, you're my best friend, or had a close relationship with anyone that I could confide in. Like, a lot of my first year of CalArts consisted of me just going to class and immediately going back to my dorm room, Skype calling my friends back in New York, instead of putting myself out there with the people that would be my future friends and colleagues. So yeah, I really wish that I tried to be more outgoing back then, because now that I am a bit more of an outgoing person and I've developed really great relationships with people at work, I'm just like, wow, imagine if I was like this in college. I could have made so many more relationships with people. I could have formed better connections, but at the same time, I don't regret what happened because I left with my best friend, Noor, and just other really great friends that I made throughout CalArts. And I feel like, I don't know, I've always been a quality friend over a quantity friends person. So I don't know, things happen for a reason. And yeah, I would still want to be more outgoing if I could go back in time though. Third, if I could go back in time, I wished I chose smaller concepts for projects like our student films. Student films are usually only like 5 minutes long or even less, but you know, as an art student who dipped their toes into the animation world for the first time, you just immediately want to jump into the biggest, best idea. But guess what? You cannot fit an epic 1 hour long film into a few minute long film unless it is the trailer. I wish I thought of more smaller life things that I could have used those few minutes to really milk out specific moments, more so than just trying to cram in like fucking 1 hour 30 minutes worth of shit into 5 minutes or something like that. But at the same time, I just feel like I let my young imaginative self just do whatever the fuck she wanted, and if that's what she wanted to do, cool. But if I were to go back in time with the brain that I have now, that's what I would have done, is to try to think of smaller concepts but make them big through a short film. And lastly, I wish I knew about these classes now, like Concept Design Academy, Brainstorm, or all these online courses that are offered by industry professionals online where you can actually take classes and they review your work. I don't think any of that really existed when I was in high school, but if that did during my high school days, I surely would have taken them before going to art school. And in some cases, some people just go take these classes and don't even need an art school degree to get a job. And lastly, as a little bonus one, ooh, gotta love bonuses, is that I wish I documented this phase of my life a little bit more, because honestly, when I think about this phase in my life, it feels a little bit like a blur, kind of almost feels like it didn't happen and I'm just here. So yeah, I wish I vlogged a bit more, even if it's just personal, or I journaled more or took more photos, because it's something that would be nice to look back at now that I'm just working, and sometimes I need reminders as to where I came from. Anyway, holy shit, we are done with this sketchbook once and for all. I won't ever have to draw on this bitch again. But this is not the last time we're gonna see it, because guess what? I still have to do a sketchbook tour, so stay tuned for the next video when I can do an official tour of everything that I've drawn in this sketchbook. So I hope this video has inspired some of y'all or resonated with some of you who are currently trying to get into art school or are currently in art school. But yeah, I will see you all in the next one, and this is not goodbye, this is see you later to this sketchbook. So peace out and stay wholesome, bitches.